Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new Fallout video. So, it is update day. The Once in a Blue Moon update is being deployed as we speak, so this is probably a good opportunity to have a look at all the features that will be coming later on today. Okay, so yeah, update day, Once in a Blue Moon. We have a Blue Ridge Caravan themed update with a whole bunch of new events and quests and a stack of pretty cool quality of life features that I'm really looking forward to getting to grips with, and as well as the usual bunch of bug fixes. So, gonna work our way through this without too much further ado. So, let's have a look. Okay, yeah, so we have the blog post here, linked down below as always if you want to have a peruse yourself. We'll go through the bug fixes quite quickly, so you may wish to do so. But let's have a gander. So we've got update version and download sizes. This is update 44. And the size we are looking from 12.4 gig on PC, which is the smallest one. Cool. Those are on Steam. Everybody else has got a 23 point something, 0.8 or 0.2 update. Unusually, the PlayStation doesn't have the largest one this time, which makes a change. So that's probably a win for you guys. There's actually another feature somewhere in here that is PlayStation unique as well, so keep an eye out. And here we have the highlights. So, Once in a Blue Moon. Blue Ridge Caravan is back and needs your help with expanding business. Once in a Blue Moon update introduces 2 new cryptids, public events, side quests, rewards, daily ops mutation, and more. Whole bunch of stuff for the summer. So, the first public event is Beasts of Burden. After a trade deal goes wrong, Luca Costa, new character, finds himself in need of some help. A group of local cultists have stolen his Brahmin and cargo of makeshift explosives. His uncle Vinny will not be happy if he catches wind of it. Vinny Costa being the guy who is hanging out at Big Ben Tunnel East, so you can already go and meet him, probably have done in fact. Quite a cool character. And involved in some other bits and pieces as well. His range of stuff is expanding with this update as well. So, guided by Luca through a two-way radio, you will need to infiltrate the cultist den, lay down explosives, and reclaim his Brahmin. Be careful not to disturb local wildlife, however, as cultists have recently noticed strange rumblings in the woods nearby. So, this one takes place down in the Cranberry Bog. It's over on the east side. It's the Cranberry Glade. Before that location basically had some walkways above a marshy area. And I think you could get Mirelurks and Mirelurk Queen in there, and that was about it. Most of those enemies have been stripped out and replaced with new ones. There's a new cultist base location in there that is really quite a cool location, and that's where this event will take place. So we'll run in there and hunt down the cultists and complete that, and it'll talk you through it. And we'll also see the first of the 2 new cryptids there. That's the Ogua, who will probably also pop up in other locations around as a random pop-up. They usually do, but that's one place where it's guaranteed to spawn. So, the second quest is Safe and Sound, and that is Blue Ridge Caravan has renovated Middle Mountain cabins to be their latest and greatest Brahmin pit stop, but they just can't seem to keep the local critters at bay. The repeller speaker system they use to repel the creatures and keep their Brahmin safe has been damaged. To retake the pit stop and create a safe haven for the Brahmin to rest, they will need your help. Clear out the creatures and defend the repeller, and the Blue Ridge Caravan will reward you handsomely for your assistance. So obviously both of these events have a bunch of new rewards. Up at Middle Mountain Cabins, you've got a bunch of new NPCs and stuff you can interact with as well, and trade and stuff. So if you want to have a gander around there, you can. It's just up the road from the White Spring, up the hill a bit there. One weird thing about this though, they're turning that location into a Brahmin pit stop. But I can only assume they've been doing some north-south runs, because it's otherwise on the path over the mountains from the Cranberry Bog if you come up from, say, Fort Defiance and then kind of zigzag your way up through Lewisburg and then come back down towards the White Spring, if you're following the roads. But there is pre-established law as to why Blue Ridge don't do that and why they go through Big Ben Tunnel, which is what sets up the Riding Shotgun event. Also very cool. Get that one from Vinny Costa, who we'll be talking about again in a minute. So if you haven't done that one, there's a fun event to check out. It's been around for ages, but yeah, worth it. But the reason they go through that tunnel is because they can't get their Brahmin caravans over the mountains. Partly because steep roads over the mountains, and partly because it involves going through the middle of Huntersville, which is chock full of super mutants. So that's probably not going to go so well for them neither. So the fact they've built this place at Middle Mountain Cabins, I'm curious to see how the law of that is exactly going to balance out, let's just say. There's definitely some conflict there. Anyway, speaking of Vinny Costa, Costa Business daily quests. So these are 7 new daily quests that have been introduced to the game. You'll be able to do them as a one-off quest, so it's 1 quest per day for 7 days or longer if you don't want to do them every day, but 7 new quests, each of them is a one-off. And you can only do 1 per day, which is hence the daily bit. It's a bit weird. But that relates to Blue Ridge Caravan. It's set up at Big Bend Tunnel East and involves Vinny Costa as your quest giver. And of course, you get more unique rewards. So, resident grouch and taskmaster Vinny Costa hasn't been happy with the performance of his employees lately. He'd be happy to throw some caps at anyone willing to solve the problem. Players can learn all about what has the Caravanier's boots stuck in the mud and collect some unique rewards along the way in the series of one-off daily quests. Unlike other dailies, players will only be able to complete this series of 7 quests once, but each has a unique Blue Ridge-themed reward, and ranging from camp items to outfits. Yeah, I'm down for any of those things. I like outfits, I like camp stuff, so I'll be doing those in the coming weeks and, weeks. There's only 7 of them, so I suppose that'll be, 3 weeks or so for me, because we'll do those on stream. Unmasking the Myth. So this is an interesting one. Long-time players that have completed content from all over 76's history may find a special side quest waiting for them after completing all of the Costa Business quests. So once you complete those 7, Unmasking the Myth quest. Now, potential spoilers, so you might want to skip on just a moment here, but basically, if you want to have this come up, you need to have explored the Lying Low quest line. Now, this was introduced with the Wild Appalachia update back in 2019, so very early on. It was the first major set of updates. It came summer after the game came out. Cool list of quests. If you want to start that and you haven't already, go to a train station. In any train station, you'll find a whole bunch of posters with a whole bunch of quests, including a bunch of them from around that time period, that you can activate the poster, get the quest, and follow the quest line. So there's one in there that Sheepsquatch ate my brother. If you've been watching my camp videos, you may well have seen that poster up in my camp on a fairly regular basis. That one is the quest line you need specifically for this. It also appears that you will need to have completed the Brotherhood of Steel quest line. The 2 halves thereof, there's Steel Dawn and Steel Rain. Good quest line, good fun. Definitely cool. I very much enjoyed that one. But it looks like, I'm not 100% right now, but it does appear to be the case that you will have needed to complete that in order to activate this quest as well. So bear that in mind. Quite a bit to get through in order to get to this content. It's definitely late game, long progression kind of content to trigger this. But there we go, extra quest as well. So, jumping back in a way, we are looking at new cryptids. We have 2 new cryptids. One will appear at each of the 2 new public events, but presumably around the map as well. So, Cryptozoologists Rejoice. Our 2 new public events introduce the Blue Devil and the Agua, 2 cryptids based on real West Virginian folklore. So, the Blue Devil is based on real-life West Virginian cryptid. This massive dog-like creature will test your wits. Its terrifying howl will send your character into a panicked mad dash for the vault. So those of you who've done Colossal Problem and the world boss down there, Earl, will be familiar with his fear attack, and I wonder whether or not the liquid courage drink that you can drink to suppress that effect will actually take effect here, but a similar type of effect occurs with the Blue Devil. So that one will occur at Middle Mountain Cabins with the, what was the name of that particular mission? Safe and Sound event. And the Beasts of Burden event features the Agua, which is also known in real life as the Monongahela pronunciation river monster, a reclusive creature that will retreat into its shell to shield itself from incoming damage. So be sure to time your attacks carefully. It's a giant spiky turtle monster. It's cool. Definitely like that one. So yeah, that should be encountering that one as well. And we have new rewards, unsurprisingly. Braving the battle against these new cryptids and public events is not without reward. Complete these events to collect a host of new items from cryptid plushies. Yes, love those. Camp items, weapon skins, and more. And outfits and things. So cool. Moving on, we have the new season, Season 13, Shoot for the Stars. So this is a Hollywood silver screen themed season, and some mixed feelings on that. It's not particularly exciting as a set of season rewards, this one, which is weird because a lot of the stuff is basically the same as other, well, in principle, not the same stuff, but in principle, sort of category-wise, it's the same. as some of the more exciting ones, which is a bit strange, but hey ho, it is what it is. I'm not going to go through all this right now because I did it in a video yesterday, so if you haven't seen that, I'll link it somewhere up here for you, and I'll try and link it down below as well, but do check that one out. Got all the rewards, all the details on there if you do want to check it out. That will kick off, as per usual, once the update goes live. Okay, Daily Ops. So we have a new mutation for Daily Ops, which presumably applies to mutated events as well, but it doesn't say so. So I guess we'll find out, won't we? But I would guess it probably does. So that is specifically a new mutation, Danger Cloud. Enemies have seeds embedded into their skin. Periodically, they will radiate a spore cloud around them that damages the player, reducing AP regen and max AP, presumably on a temporary basis. Well, obviously on a temporary basis, the question is just how temporary. Plan your routes and loadouts carefully to withstand these infected beings. So I don't know if that counts as poison damage or what, and whether or not the Union Power Armor will be good there. I guess we'll see, won't we? But either way, keep your distance and shoot them from further away seems to be the play with these. But yeah, cool. New mutation going on. I wonder whether or not that'll crop up on day one, or just have to keep an eye out for it. We will see, I guess. So, moving on. Design changes and improvements. There's a fair chunk here. Right, nudge that up just a tiny little bit further. There we go, that's all of them. They do just about fit on the screen. There's some really cool stuff in here. This is the quality of life stuff and a couple of other updates as well. Really, really cool stuff. Definitely recommend checking some of this out. So, first up, expeditions. We've made a number of gameplay design changes and improvements, from removing fuel costs for expeditions and adding in more detailed weapon and mod descriptions that can better cater to your build for your unique play style. Basically, lots more detail and ability to fine-tune and figure out what the heck's going on. So, expeditions. Following player feedback, we have made adjustments to expeditions and their associated daily fuel quests. So, prior to this update, you had to go and do 3 dailies in order to fuel your vertibird in order to launch an expedition as the team leader. Now that will no longer be necessary. The dailies will still be there, and you can do them if you like, but you'll get more conventional type rewards. The requirement for ultrasight battery charge is gone. You can just hop into your map and launch an expedition straight away without the faffing around. So that is the big thing with the removed ultrasight battery charge, so it won't be tracked on your player, and you don't need to worry about it for launching expeditions. Much, much easier. Wonderful. They have also reduced the stamp cost in Giuseppe's store, so basically everything's on a discount permanently now. So Giuseppe's prices have come down, so if you want to spend stamps for pit-themed rewards and presumably other stuff on down the line once the Atlantic City update comes out next year, it should cost a little bit less. So if you want to go and spend those stamps, now is the time. So yeah, but obviously you find him next to Bubbles in the White Spring Refuge if you haven't already. And last but not least, this is one that I wasn't aware of, but it's kind of cool. From Ashes to Fire now grants an increased number of stamps and legendary items in its rewards. Now, there's obviously not a lot of information here. My hunch on this is that because of the final section of the expedition mission being somewhat RNG related, especially if you're soloing it, they've decided to bump up the rewards to kind of offset that. So at the end of this one, you come out of the sanctuary and have to rescue some people trapped in the Radstorm. Fine, okay, but their location and how much health each of these have, and therefore how much time you have to get to them, is randomized. So if you're soloing this in particular, to a lesser degree still true if you're in a group, but you can split up, so... But if you're soloing this and have to get to all 3, it's basically RNG whether or not you get to the weakest member of the group fast enough to save them. So my guess is that because of that, in the event that you are successful, they've bumped up the rewards for it. That would make sense, that's my guess. But yeah, either way, more stuff for doing from Ashes to Fire, but it's the slightly more difficult of the 2 expeditions that are currently in the game. So, that's expedition stuff. Weapon and armor description stuff now. We've overhauled the way weapon and armor information is displayed in both the Inspect menu and the Workbench menus. So Inspect, obviously, you go into your Pip-Boy and then hit the button labeled Inspect at the bottom. It's X on PC, I believe. And it pops up the picture of the weapon, you get the stats, you get more information down there, and then you get, obviously, the name and legendary details across the top. That's all been getting a bit of an overhaul, so hopefully it should be much clearer and give you much more useful information. So, head into gameplay settings in your settings menu. So open up the map, bring up the menu, settings, gameplay. And in there's going to be a whole raft, actually, of recently added changes that allow you to tweak settings. And there's a couple under the display tab as well. So you might want to have a thumb through there and see what's what. because there's a good bunch of changes in there with some nice little features you might want to check out if you haven't. But under there, you'll find turn on advanced mod description. So it can be on or it can be off. Defaults to off, so if you want to check out all this new stuff, turn it on. If you want to fine-tune your builds and be able to see in some ways more easily exactly what's doing what and what's most effective and what's less effective in terms of your weapons and armor and mods and setup and legendary effects and all that stuff, then turn this on and you'll be able to see a lot more information. It's also color-coded, so you can see what's improving things and what's making things worse at a glance as well. So, what it's going to do, it's going to show AP cost, fire mode, whether it be that single, automatic or charging, ammo capacity and damage over time effects in more detail. I've got new icons to replace the plus and minus indicators when crafting new items, so showing presumably how effective it is compared to what you currently got equipped. Changes when modding are now color-coded, as I mentioned. Set bonuses now have an icon indicator next to the effect description, so I'm thinking this is more like things like, say, the fixer. You know, you get a legendary fixer, you can have up to your 3-star effects. There's also 2 other effects that are always present on the fixer. Those are going to be highlighted in a different manner so that you can separate those from the rollable legendary effects. Just to clarify things a bit more. And obviously there are other things that work in a similar way that will also benefit from this as well. So legendary effects now have a legendary star icon next to the effect description, so you can see which is a legendary effect and which is another type of effect more clearly, again, as I say, so that clarifies on that. Extra effects not normally shown elsewhere are now displayed below the legendary effect, this whole thing tying together again. And dynamic values of some effects have been added to show the current bonus, so based on your loadout, your perks, things like that, and the mods and everything, you get more numbers and information pertaining to just how much damage output and fire rate and AP cost and all that stuff you get, but in much more detail than we had before. If you turn on advanced mod descriptions, that is. If you don't turn it on, it'll say the same as it currently is, so go with whatever you like, but that's one area I will actually be turning it on. So, moving on from that, we've got a couple of balance changes. I'm going to nudge this down just a little bit for ease of reading. The bleed out syringe barrel now deals physical damage instead of poison. Burning mods for energy weapons now deal fire damage, well that makes sense. And they've adjusted the 2-shot legendary mod to deal its bonus damage more similarly to energy weapons. This is to keep the damage more in line with one another. I haven't got the foggiest what that means. If you're using 2-shot though, you may find some differences in the amount of damage the second shot is doing, I guess. So yeah, it's an intended change. I suppose at least you know it's not a bug. Alright, additional design changes and improvements. Here's some more good stuff. Contextual ammo. So this is the ammo that drops based on the weapon you're using. So if you're using a weapon that uses 45, enemies will drop 45 ammo. If you're using a Gatling laser that uses fusion cores, they should drop fusion cores. Basically, what's happening here across daily ops, expeditions, and in the main game, the main open world, basically the drops you get should better reflect the weapon you're using, specifically pertaining to things like automatic weapons and high fire rate stuff. So basically, if you've got a high fire rate gun, it should mean that the enemy drops more ammo than they were doing, and conversely, if you've got a single shot weapon, it should be dropping less generally. Basically, contextual ammo should better reflect the weapon you're using, in short. So definitely going to be an improvement, particularly for those of us who use automatic weapons and therefore really struggle to get any worthwhile amount of ammo back from either daily ops or from just sort of general exploration. So definitely an improvement. So Bethesda's words on the subject are: contextual ammo has been adjusted to more closely match ammo counts for daily ops and expeditions, better accommodate some weapons which consume a lot of ammo, and provide more ammo for non-expeditions, daily ops, open world, in certain level ranges where enemies are proportionately harder and more difficult to kill. So there you go. Kill an enemy that is tougher, you should also get more ammo back for doing that as well. That's another point. Fix also increases the rate of fusion and plasma cores dropping in the open world. So those who use Gatling lasers, ultrasight Gatling lasers, or Gatling plasmas, and I think there's probably something else I've forgotten on this, but you're with me anyway, you'll be getting more ammo back than you were because it was pitiful amounts in the past. So, yeah. The other thing to be aware of, obviously, is, especially if you're using a fusion core type weapon, it will end up adding weight onto your character a lot more quickly, so you may find yourself carrying more stuff, so you might want to keep an eye on that. So, fanfare. This is my personal favourite change on the whole list here. That is, the legendary item fanfare no longer appears in the centre of the screen. Hallelujah. So that pop-up when you pick up a legendary item literally is smack in front of your face, and it spins around with all of the information on it. That is being shrunk down, it is being moved to the side, and it actually has more detailed, useful information on it. So it's getting more useful, it's smaller, and it's not in the middle anymore. So thank Christ for that. That is fantastically helpful. That pop-up and the time it took and the fact it was in the middle of the screen used to drive me nuts, and it has done since the game came out, and I am overjoyed to have this in the game. So wonderful change, really, really happy about that. Hell yes. So, I mentioned earlier PlayStation players were getting something specific. Here it is. They've updated the default controller layout for PlayStation users. So, yeah, your controls are going to change after this update. Not much, just a little bit. The map is now opened with the touchpad, and the POV can be changed using the options button. I'm going to guess that that's a reverse from the way it was before. Not played the game on PlayStation. I've used my PlayStation controller once in the game for one video, I think. But, yeah, something to be aware of for you PlayStation users. You're going to have to mentally adjust to that, I guess. I suppose you could probably change it back in-game if you wanted, but there you go. There's your FYI. Resets. So, during daylight savings, vendors now update their inventory at the same time as challenges, i.e. at 11 AM Central Time. Note, outside of daylight savings, the reset will happen at 12 PM Central Time. So basically it's moving the vendor reset times to line up with all the other reset times. So it should be in line with all that, clarifying it, making it a bit simpler. And a couple more settings options. We've added a setting to enable and disable weapon muzzle flash effects. So for third-person people and people using VATS, probably not a big deal. But for those who like to ADS in first person and use their sights, like me, this is brilliant because the muzzle flare puts a bright flash right in your face and it is very, very annoying sometimes. So, I mean, that's probably quite realistic. I don't know. Makes sense. But the fact you can now turn that off in the settings if you want to means that you will actually be able to see what you're aiming at when you're firing down there, the actual sights of your weapon, which is a really nice change. So that will be getting tweaked this evening for me, no doubt. There's something that is missing from this list that I don't know if it's missing because they're not putting it in the game or they've just missed it off the list. And that is that when you fire a weapon at a target, be that an enemy or a wall, then on impact there is an impact effect. It might be a puff of dust or whatever from a ballistic impact or a little flash of fire from a laser beam or whatever. There is also a setting, or there was on the public test server, that would allow you to turn that off if you wanted. Less significantly important, but you could do it anyway. It's not listed here, which makes me wonder whether or not it's going into the game. We'll see, I guess, when the servers come back up. But it might be there, it might not. Either way, what it did not affect was the explosive effect of explosive legendary weapons. So you still got the explosive effect on target there. The visual part of it, I mean. So, yeah. That's something to keep an eye out for, but it's not mentioned here. So I'm guessing it's been left off the list rather than anything else, but we'll see. And last but not least here for the quality of life changes, we've also added a setting for VATS for targeting grenades and mines. Players can now choose to target all grenades and mines, or just their own, or none of them. So, yeah, you'll have less random targeting if you adjust your settings, basically, for that, if you're using VATS. So, yeah, might want to have a look at that one. Okay, so that is the major changes and fixes and tweaks and features of the update. Now we come to bug fixes and improvements. So, what we're going to do, as per usual, I'm going to go through this list and put it up on the screen and give you a chance to pause it and read it yourself. I'll also link down below, so if you want to check the article out and read it yourself that way, you absolutely can do. And then I will just pick out the stuff that I think is most interesting, because, as always, this list is fairly extensive, and we'll be here all day. You know? So, here's the first half for you to have a look at. There's a load more for you to have a look at. And there's the last few. Okay, so let's jump back up to the top and I'll pick out the stuff that's most interesting to me. Bug fixes and improvements. Audio, sound effects, Nuka World speakers now correctly playing audio in camps. Okay, properly in sync with Nuka World speakers down the road at Nuka World on tour. That's cool. And fixed a bug that can cause switching voice chat type settings to not always mute or unmute players appropriately. So voice chat should be, in-game voice chat should be a bit more useful if you're not using a third-party app. And fix various cases of mismatched subtitles to their voiceovers. So I bet there's still a few that haven't been caught there, but yeah, there were a bunch of those. Art and animation. Adjustments made it to the intergalactic handmade weapon skin. I think I've got that skin. I've never used it though. I must check it out eventually. Added collision to the abandoned mine, carpeted ramp, and medieval stairs. Okay. They fixed an issue that allowed a player to skip certain animations while firing weapons, so more of a PvP kind of exploit fix there. But in terms of its being particularly impactful, but yeah, that's probably a good thing. Brahman milk machine and popcorn machine can now be both placed in a camp at the same time. That's cool. Wallpaper can now be placed on the Clean Ranch kit wall with windows. Clean Ranch kit. I don't even know which one that is. Interesting. Still, definitely a good addition. Flatwoods Monster Tube now has a HUD notification when learning its plan. Nice. A little pop-up for that. Camp stuff. That's probably interesting to me. Sam can now be purchased from Samuel for gold bullion, so that's an ally that is now available over at Foundation. Settler Forager would now give daily quests correctly. That guy's been a problem since he was introduced, I think. Allies placed within the Hunter's Lodge, that's the prefab from the most recent season that's just gone by, Season 12, can now wander around to their heart's content. Mixed feelings about that. If they were being contained, that's probably not the worst thing ever. Still, addressed an issue that could cause items placed on the floor of the Helvetia porch set to snap to its roof instead. That's probably still going to be a thing that can happen if it's too high up, but hopefully not if it's placed on the floor. Either way, blueprinting the item, placing the item somewhere else, blueprinting it, and then placing a blueprint of it generally solves the problem if you're after a particular item. Adjusted the budget cost of the circus trailer. Cool. The Blue Nuka-Cola billboard now has a destruction state. The Slocum's Fat Stack should now be easier to place in some shelters. Thinking the underground mine is an obvious example. Made adjustments to Enclave power armor display to make it so that all power armor is aligned properly. Nice, so that displays properly now. Cool. Jetpacks no longer visually disappear from mannequins. Didn't know you could put them on there. On reflection, I can kind of see why you would if you put armor on them. Okay. I don't think I would want to waste my flux building jetpacks for mannequins, though. Brotherhood of Steel Soldier and Knight Under Armor now have correct texture applied to them. That's cool. Challenges. Added refuge daily quests to the list for complete daily quest type challenges. So, because of the rest of the change, they presumably weren't part of that set before. Now they complete the daily challenge, complete daily quest challenges in a way that they didn't before. It makes sense. It's a sensible change. I wouldn't really call it a bug fix, but yeah, it makes sense. Fixed an issue where the rank up to here button would remain grayed out after aborting an atom purchase. So that's a visual issue. Reroller consumables can now be purchased in custom worlds. Okay. I'm curious as to whether or not that purchase actually comes with you. I would think it would, but normally stuff in custom worlds doesn't, so I wouldn't recommend, just in case. And Cold Shoulder weapon now properly counts towards challenge, deal cryo damage to enemies. Cool. Fix an issue preventing enemy flamer animations from playing correctly. I'm not sure whether that's a pro or a con, really, seeing as normally they just absolutely blind you, and I don't like them very much at all. Enemies unable to be damaged by a ranged attack no longer display normal damage values when hit by ranged instead of 0, so you should actually be getting useful feedback there. Super mutants now properly just drop contextual ammo. That's a good fix, especially in light of the other one further up. Fix an issue that caused players to take damage from an Ultron's laser when they hadn't been hit. And when dismembered, Trogs no longer spawn a second bloody head. Yeah, that sounds like some nightmare fuel that has been averted there. Sounds like a good thing. Events. Invaders from Beyond. Fix an issue that caused dynamic weather events in nuclear blast zones to be overridden by the Invaders from Beyond event weather. So if Invaders from Beyond spawns in a blast zone, I guess it's still going to be a blast zone, just with the enemies and not the weather. Okay. Couple of magazine fixes there for those of you who use the Backwoodsman. Number 4 now works properly and provides 50% chance to yield double items from plants. And number 6, 50% health boost now correctly applies to all food items and correctly states its effects in the Pip-Boy. Well-fed buff now persists after logging out back in. Cool, didn't know that wasn't doing, that's definitely a bonus. Fixed issues to shared perks being persistent after stopping sharing them. So, yeah, you should not continue sharing your perks when you don't want to. And Excel, Radaway, Antibiotics, and Radax are now affected by the Chem Fiend perk. Power armor. Crafting. Repairing Strangler Heart power armor helmets no longer requires Vault Steel and Legendary modules. To craft them it still will, but not to repair them. And the Father Winter helmet paint can no longer be crafted without knowing the recipe, and no longer appears in the crafting menu for T45. I didn't know it could be in the first place. One Violent Night. They fixed an issue causing the progress bar to unexpectedly stop, so that should mean One Violent Night will be back after this update, which is something that was brought up on stream last night, so yeah, hopefully that means that event should be popping back up again. That's cool. They disabled it because of this issue. Fix an issue where players weren't receiving bonus caps when teammate completed a quest. Fix an issue that caused the keep moving twist on spin the wheel, not to damage players who were standing still, so that will actually work as intended. And in Surface to Air, completing the event at Forward Station Alpha now always counts as completing an event in the Cranberry Bog. Legendary mods. Addressed an issue where Overeater's legendary mod would cause players to receive increased damage. That's a good change. Legendary mod Weightless now applies to the weight added by other mods attached to the item, so it actually does make it weightless instead of just sort of partially weightless. That's cool. Nuke launcher can now be changed back to its original paint after changing it to a different paint. Okay, that's interesting. We should remove the darn weapon altogether, but, you know, can't have everything apparently. Fancy single-action revolver can now drop with the following legendary effects. Zealots, Gormans, Juggernauts, and Aristocrats. That's cool. Still, single-shot revolver or pistol is still not going to be great, but potentially its usefulness has just increased a little bit, or the potential of getting a useful legendary effect has gone up anyway. We made adjustments to the Gauss shotgun's VATS accuracy to make it more in line with the Gauss pistol. Cool, makes sense. I still think it would be less accurate overall than a pistol, which just makes sense. What with it being, you know, a spread and all. A couple of world changes. Vehicles. Plasma grenades now damage vehicles. And Purveyor and certain loot lists will once again drop copies of plans players already know. Okay, so where duplicates should occur, they should occur, in short. And fixed visual effect of the Fanatic Flamer. So a couple of UI fixes to round things out. Alien Blaster mods now correctly display number of mods unlocked. Favorite wheel, Nuka Quantum now shows the correct icon. Okay, so the help menu has a whole bunch of useful updates so that it actually more accurately provides useful information, which is always a good thing. For those who might happen to be a new player catching this, then yeah, there's a help menu in the game that explains a lot of the mechanics and ins and outs and stuff, and more of the obscure stuff. So if you do want to have a dive into that, a lot of people miss the presence of that thing, so yeah, worth mentioning. Bunker Buster name now correctly appears for the item in player's inventory instead of missile launcher. Cool. And you already know prompt will show for a number of plans that were previously missing that prompt. There we go. So, rock and roll. Quite an extensive list of fixes, quite an extensive list of new features, and some very, very cool new events and cryptids and stuff on the way today. Definitely happy about this. There's some cool changes that I'm looking forward to jumping into this evening. So, thank you all for watching. I do hope this has been useful and informative, and you look forward to the Once in a Blue Moon update. I'm looking forward to jumping in this evening myself. Do join us for live streams if you get the chance. We're going to be on this one today and tomorrow, and of course continuing on after that as well, tackling the new season and the new events and things. On top of that, we are going to be doing a few other bits and pieces on the streaming front as well in the coming months in the run-up to Starfield. So do keep an eye out and join us for those live streams. It should be good fun and a nice chilled out evening if you'd care to join. Monday to Friday around about 8 PM UK time. And yes, down below the video as usual, social media links, merch store, likes, subs, all that good stuff. Channel memberships if you're interested in supporting the channel that way. Really, really, really helps out. I really, really appreciate it. Massive thank you to everyone who's done that. And yes, on that note, thank you very much for watching once again, and I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.